I want you to picture something for me. You're sitting in your own living room, your own house that you've been paying the mortgage on for 6 years, watching a movie with your wife and kid on a random Tuesday night. Normal, right? Peaceful, even. Now imagine your phone accidentally connects to the TV via Bluetooth, and suddenly you're watching your wife's text thread pop up on that 65-inch screen. Messages that make your blood turn to ice water. Messages to another man. Messages that destroy everything you thought was real. That's exactly what happened to me 3 months ago, and I'm still trying to process how my entire life imploded in the span of 30 seconds. But let me back up, because the worst part? The signs were all there. I just didn't want to see them. My name's irrelevant now. I'm just another guy who thought he had it all figured out. 34 years old, decent job in medical device sales, married to Sarah for 7 years, together for 9. We had a 5-year-old son named Jake, a 3-bedroom house in a good school district, 2 cars paid off, and what I genuinely believed was a solid marriage. Sure, we'd had our rough patches like anyone else, but we always worked through them. Or so I thought. Sarah was a marketing coordinator for a local real estate firm. She worked reasonable hours, made decent money, and we tag-teamed the parenting thing pretty well. I handled morning drop-offs at Jake's kindergarten, she did pickups. I cooked dinner most nights, she did the grocery shopping and meal planning. We had date nights once a month when her mom would take Jake. From the outside, and honestly from the inside too, we looked like we had our shit together. The school Jake attended was one of those tight-knit community places where all the parents knew each other. There was a whole social ecosystem around it, parent volunteers, fundraising committees, that kind of thing. Sarah was much more involved in that world than I was. I knew some of the other dads from weekend soccer games, but Sarah was the one who actually knew people's names, their kids' names, their drama. About 8 months before everything fell apart, Sarah started mentioning this one dad pretty frequently. Marcus. His daughter Lily was in Jake's class. Marcus was recently divorced, about a year out from his split, according to Sarah. He'd apparently been married to some woman who cheated on him, which I remember Sarah telling me about with what seemed like genuine sympathy. Poor guy, she'd said. He's doing the single dad thing all on his own. His ex barely sees their daughter. I didn't think much of it at first. Sarah mentioned lots of parents. But Marcus's name started coming up more and more. Marcus said the funniest thing today. Marcus is organizing the fall festival committee. Marcus thinks we should push back on the school's new homework policy. It was always Marcus this, Marcus that. I met him exactly twice. Once at a school open house where he seemed like a perfectly normal dude, tall, fit, worked in finance or something, had that divorced dad energy of trying a little too hard to prove he had everything under control. The second time was at Jake's birthday party at our house. Sarah had insisted we invite the whole class, which meant Marcus and Lily showed up. He brought an expensive gift, stayed for exactly the appropriate amount of time, made small talk about the Broncos game, and left. Completely unremarkable. I remember thinking he seemed like an okay guy who was probably lonely after his divorce. I actually felt a little bad for him. The universe has a sick sense of humor sometimes. Around 6 months before D-Day, Sarah started going to the gym more regularly. Nothing crazy. She'd always been fitness conscious, but she stepped it up from 3 times a week to 5 or 6. She also started dressing a little nicer for work. Again, nothing that screamed alarm bells. She'd just gotten a small promotion, so I figured she was feeling more confident, wanting to look the part. She seemed happier, actually. More energetic. I thought our marriage was in a good place. I was an idiot. But then came the pickup schedule changes, and that's when the first crack appeared in the facade. Sarah had always handled school pickups at 3:15. It was part of our routine, carved in stone for 2 years. I did mornings because I could start my work calls from home, and she did afternoons because her office was closer to the school. Simple, logical, and it worked. Then she started asking me to do pickups. Just occasionally at first. "Hey babe, I've got a client meeting running late. Can you grab Jake today?" "No problem." Then it was twice a week. Then 3 times. By month 4 of this new pattern, I was doing pickups more often than she was. When I asked her about it, she had perfectly reasonable explanations. Big project at work. Extra meetings. Her boss was demanding more face time. Here's what I should have noticed. On the days I did pick up, Sarah would get home almost 2 hours after she left work. Her office was a 15-minute drive from our house. Even with traffic, there was no reason for her to be gone that long. But she always had an excuse. Stopped at the grocery store. Had to run to Target. Met with a client for coffee. Got stuck on a call in the parking lot. The other thing I missed, she became weirdly invested in the pickup schedule. Like, really invested. She'd text me by 2 p.m. on days when it was supposed to be her turn, already planning to have me do it instead. And on the rare days I suggested I could do it when it was supposed to be her day, she'd get almost defensive. No, I've got it. You're busy. I already planned around it. I thought she was being considerate, making sure we had our responsibilities clear. In reality, she was protecting her time with him. The texts became another red flag I rationalized away. Sarah had always been on her phone a fair bit, social media, group chats with friends, work stuff. But it ramped up significantly. She'd be smiling at her screen at random times, typing away during dinner, taking her phone with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. When I'd ask who she was texting, it was always something vague. Just the school parent chat, work group, my sister. Her sister lived in Seattle, and they texted maybe once a week. But suddenly she was texting her multiple times a day? I actually asked Sarah about it once. "Wow, you and Amy are really staying in touch lately." She just shrugged and said, "Yeah, she's going through some stuff. I'm being supportive." I never followed up. I trusted her. The intimacy between us didn't completely disappear, but it changed. We went from 2 or 3 times a week to maybe twice a month. When we did have sex, she seemed distant, like she was physically there but mentally somewhere else. I tried to talk to her about it once, asked if everything was okay between us. She blamed stress at work, said she was just tired. She even suggested we plan a weekend getaway, just the 2 of us. We never actually booked it, but the fact that she suggested it made me think she was trying, that she wanted us to reconnect. More fool me. The real kicker was the emotional distance. Sarah started sharing less about her day. We used to debrief every evening. She'd tell me about her work drama. I'd tell her about my sales calls. We'd laugh about the ridiculous stuff Jake said. That stopped. Conversations became logistical. Did you pay the electric bill? Jake needs new sneakers. Your mom called about Thanksgiving. We became roommates managing a household instead of partners sharing a life. And then came the night that almost gave it all away, 3 weeks before the Bluetooth incident that nuked everything. It was a Friday night. I'd made plans to grab beers with a buddy from work, but he'd canceled last minute. His kid got sick. I texted Sarah that I'd be home earlier than expected, around 7:30 instead of 10. She read the message. I saw the blue check marks, but didn't respond. Whatever. She was probably cooking dinner or dealing with Jake's bath time. I got home at 7:35. Sarah's car was in the driveway. I walked in through the garage, and the house was quiet. Too quiet. Jake was already asleep, which was unusual for that time on a Friday. I found Sarah in our bedroom, fresh out of the shower, hair wet, wearing her nice pajamas. The ones that weren't really pajamas, if you know what I mean. "Hey," she said, and I swear to God there was a flash of panic in her eyes before she covered it with a smile. "You're home early. I didn't hear you come in." "Dave's kid got sick," I said. I texted you like an hour ago. Oh, I didn't see it. My phone was charging in the kitchen. Except I'd seen her read it. But I didn't say that. Instead, I asked, "Where's Jake?" He was exhausted from his playdate today. I put him down early. What playdate? A micro pause. With Lily, Marcus's daughter. I told you about it this morning. She hadn't. I would have remembered. But I let it slide. Oh yeah, right. How'd that go? Good. They played at the park for like 2 hours, ran themselves ragged. Something felt off about the whole thing, but I couldn't put my finger on what. Why was she all showered and done up at 7:30 on a Friday when we had no plans? Why had Jake been at a playdate I didn't know about? Why did she seem nervous? I asked her about it. Is everything okay? You seem weird. I'm fine, she said, a little too quickly. Just tired. It was a long week. Then she pivoted. Actually, I was hoping we could watch a movie or something. Just us. I feel like we never get time alone anymore. And just like that, my suspicions melted away. Because she was right, we didn't get enough time alone. And here she was, suggesting we reconnect. So we went downstairs, opened a bottle of wine, and watched some action movie I'd barely remember. She curled up next to me on the couch like old times. It felt nice, normal. I thought maybe we were getting back on track. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't find out until much later, was that Marcus had been in my house that afternoon. In my home, while I was at work. He'd been there with Lily for this supposed playdate, and after the kids went to play in Jake's room, he and Sarah had been doing God knows what in my living room. That's why she'd rushed to shower when I texted. That's why Jake was put to bed early. That's why she seemed panicked. But I didn't know any of that yet. I was still living in the comfortable lie. The universe, though, apparently decided I'd been blind long enough. 2 weeks later, on a random Tuesday night, the truth came crashing down in the most modern, idiotic way possible. Jake had begged to watch one of those animated movies he'd seen at a friend's house. I'd rented it on Amazon through our smart TV. It was about 7 p.m., and we were all settled on the couch, me, Sarah, and Jake between us, clutching his stuffed elephant like it was the most important thing in the world. Normal family movie night. The American dream, right? About 20 minutes into the movie, my phone was sitting on the coffee table. I'd been using it earlier to respond to a work email. The thing about our TV setup is that it has this Bluetooth feature that automatically connects to the last device used. Usually, it's fine. Usually, it just means I can play music through the TV speakers. Usually, it doesn't destroy your entire world. Sarah's phone was in the kitchen charging, so she'd grab my phone to check something. She said she wanted to see what time her mom was planning to come over that weekend. Completely normal. She'd unlocked my phone plenty of times before. I had nothing to hide, and I thought she didn't either. What neither of us realized in that moment was that when she unlocked my phone, it triggered the Bluetooth connection, and our TV suddenly mirrored my phone screen. The movie paused. And there, on our 65-inch TV in crystal clear high definition, was my phone's home screen. What the? I started to say, reaching for the remote to fix whatever glitch was happening. But Sarah was faster. She lunged for my phone on the coffee table, panic written all over her face. That's when I knew. Before I saw anything, before I understood what was happening, I knew. You know how they say your body knows the truth before your brain catches up? That's exactly what happened. My stomach dropped, my hands went cold, and this ringing started in my ears. I was faster than her. I grabbed my phone first. And there, in the notifications that had popped up on the screen that was still mirrored to our TV, were text messages. From Marcus, missing you. Tonight was amazing. Can't stop thinking about this afternoon. And the most recent one, sent literally as we were sitting there. Jake asleep yet? Time did this weird thing where it seemed to stop and speed up simultaneously. Jake was still sitting between us, oblivious, asking why the movie stopped. Sarah was frozen, her face cycling through emotions, panic, fear, calculation, resignation, and I was staring at these messages on my phone. Messages that I now understood had been coming for months. Messages that proved everything I'd been rationalizing away was exactly what I'd feared but refused to believe. "Jake, buddy," I heard myself say, and my voice sounded weird, distant. "Go up to your room for a few minutes, okay? Mommy and Daddy need to talk." But the movie, now, Jake, I didn't mean to yell. The poor kid's face crumpled, and he ran upstairs crying. I'd feel terrible about that later. In that moment, though, I couldn't think about anything except the messages on my phone. Sarah started talking immediately. Words were pouring out of her. "It's not what you think. We're just friends." He was venting to me about his ex. "Those messages are being taken out of context. He's just lonely and I've been helping him." I cut her off. "Stop. Just stop." My hands were shaking as I opened the text thread. I didn't want to look. I had to look. I scrolled up and up and up. Hundreds of messages, thousands maybe. Going back months, 6 months at least. There were the normal ones that could be explained away, talking about the kids. School stuff. Did Jake mention what happened at recess? But scattered in between were the others. The ones that couldn't be explained away. "I can't stop thinking about you. My bed feels empty without you. When can we have a real afternoon together? I want you so badly right now." And her responses. My wife's responses. "I know, baby. Soon. I wish you were here. This morning in your car was incredible. I'm getting wet just thinking about you." I'm not going to lie. I almost threw up right there on my living room floor. This woman I'd been married to for 7 years, the mother of my child, had been fucking another man for months. In his car. In his house. Probably in my house, based on some of these messages. But it got so much worse when I started looking at the photos. There were pictures in the text thread. Lots of pictures. Some were innocent enough, Marcus and his daughter at the park, screenshots of funny memes, a photo of a restaurant menu when they were apparently discussing where to grab lunch. But then there were the others. A photo of Sarah in our bathroom mirror, wearing lingerie I'd never seen before. The timestamp was from a Thursday afternoon. I'd been on a sales call. Jake had been at school. The caption she'd sent with it, counting down the hours until pickup. A selfie of the two of them in his car, her head on his shoulder, both of them smiling like lovesick teenagers. The photo was tagged with a location, a park about 30 minutes from our house, some remote spot I'd never heard of. And the one that made me actually leave the room and go throw up in the downstairs bathroom, a photo Marcus had sent her, taken from behind, of Sarah sitting on what was clearly a bed. She was naked from the waist up, her back to the camera, her head turned slightly so you could see her profile. The caption he'd written, "Best view in the world." When I came back from the bathroom, Sarah was crying on the couch. Full breakdown, mascara everywhere, hyperventilating. Some part of me, the part that had loved her for 9 years, wanted to comfort her. The rest of me wanted to scream. "How long?" I asked. My voice was eerily calm. "It doesn't matter how long." 6 months, she whispered. "It started 6 months ago." "Where? When?" She was sobbing too hard to answer coherently, but eventually the story came out. It had started at a school fundraiser, of all the fucking cliché places. They'd been on the planning committee together. They'd stayed late after a meeting, gotten to talking, had too much wine. One thing led to another, and they'd kissed in the school parking lot. She swore it was supposed to be a one-time mistake. But then, they couldn't stop thinking about each other. They started texting, meeting for coffee. Then meeting for more than coffee. The afternoon pickups at school, She'd been coordinating with him. On days when I did pick up, she'd meet him at his house. He'd arrange for his daughter to have a play date somewhere else, or sometimes Lily would be at his ex-wife's. They'd have 2-3 hours alone. On days when she did pick up, she'd sometimes take Jake to play with Lily at the park, and she and Marcus would sneak away to his car while the kids played. The play date at our house 3 weeks ago? They'd gotten bold. They'd actually fucked in my guest bedroom while the kids watched TV downstairs. She admitted that. She actually fucking admitted it. I never meant for it to go this far, she kept saying, like that mattered. I love you. I love our family. It just happened. It didn't just happen, I said. You made a choice, hundreds of choices. Every text, every lie, every time you fucked him in his car while I thought you were grocery shopping. Then she said something that made me realize how deep this went. He understands me in a way you don't. He listens. He makes me feel alive. And there it was. This wasn't just sex. She had feelings for him. Real feelings. She'd fallen in love with the other dad while playing happy family with me. I kicked her out that night. She went to her mother's. And then I made the mistake of trying to find out exactly how bad it was. Over the next few days, I did what every destroyed spouse does in the digital age. I went through everything. I recovered deleted messages using a backup app. I checked the location's history on our phone plan. I went through our credit card statements with a microscope. And holy shit, the depth of the betrayal was staggering. Charges at restaurants I'd never been to, on days when she'd said she was working late. A hotel charge from 3 months ago. Turned out she'd told me she was at a work conference overnight, but she'd actually been an hour away in a hotel with Marcus. Our family therapist later told me that's called compartmentalization. I call it being a lying, cheating sociopath. I found out she'd been using our joint account for some of these outings with him. Dinners, coffee, even gas money for drives to their secret spots. I'd been funding my own betrayal without knowing it. The location history from her phone was damning. She'd been at his address dozens of times. Sometimes for 3 hours in the middle of a weekday. And there were other locations too, motels on the outskirts of town, that park I'd seen in the photos, even a location that I eventually realized was a weekend cabin owned by one of Marcus's friends. She'd told me she was going to a bachelorette party that weekend. She'd been with him. I confronted Marcus too. Showed up at his house 2 days after D-Day, and if I'm being completely honest, I don't remember the drive there. I just remember standing on his porch, him opening the door with this deer in headlights look, and me not hitting him, which I'm still proud of actually. You know what he said? Look man, I never meant for this to happen. Sarah and I just connected. I'm sorry you're hurt, but we're in love. In love. He actually said that. Like it justified everything. Like being in love meant it was okay to fuck another man's wife while their kids played together in kindergarten. I told him to stay the hell away from my family. He agreed, but it was hollow. Because here's the thing I found out later, they didn't actually stop seeing each other. Even after I kicked Sarah out. Even after I filed for divorce, they were still together. She'd moved into her mom's place, but she was spending most nights at his house. The ink wasn't even dry on the separation papers, and she was already playing house with him and his daughter. The divorce process was a nightmare. I thought naively, stupidly, that because Sarah had so clearly been the one who destroyed our marriage, things would be somewhat fair. I mean, I had proof. Screenshots of thousands of text messages, credit card receipts, location data, evidence that she'd been carrying on an affair for 6 months and lying to my face every single day. But here's what I learned. In a no-fault divorce state, none of that matters. Her infidelity was legally irrelevant to the proceedings. The judge didn't care that she'd been cheating. The only thing that mattered was the best interest of the child and the division of assets. Sarah's lawyer painted her as the primary caregiver. She'd been doing most of the pickups, yeah, to fuck her boyfriend, but that detail was conveniently omitted. She'd been more involved in school activities. She had more flexible work hours. Therefore, she should have primary custody. My lawyer argued back. I did morning drop-offs, I cooked dinners, I was equally involved. But it didn't matter. The system is designed to favor the mother unless you can prove she's actively dangerous to the child and loving your kid while also cheating on your spouse. Not legally dangerous. We went to mediation first, which was its own special hell. Sitting across the table from Sarah, who'd now fully committed to her new relationship with Marcus, watching her pretend to be the reasonable one. She wanted the house. She wanted primary custody. She wanted child support. She wanted alimony because she'd sacrificed her career advancement to be more available for Jake. I refused initially. No fucking way was I giving up my house and my kid to the woman who'd blown up our lives. We'd go to court if we had to. So we went to court, and the system absolutely destroyed me. The judge was a woman in her 60s who'd probably seen 10,000 cases just like ours. She looked tired. She looked like she didn't care about the nuances of who did what to whom. She just wanted to get through her docket and go home. My lawyer presented the affair evidence, arguing it showed Sarah's judgment and character. The judge barely glanced at it. This is a no-fault state counselor. Marital misconduct isn't relevant to custody determinations. Sarah's lawyer presented her case. She'd been the primary afternoon caregiver. She had a closer relationship with the school staff. She'd taken more days off work when Jake was sick. Her work schedule was more flexible for future needs. My lawyer countered with everything I did: mornings, dinners, homework help, bedtime routines. We split parenting 50-50, I argued. There's no reason she should get more custody than me. The judge awarded her primary physical custody. I got every other weekend and one dinner a week. Every other weekend, with my own son, the kid I'd been raising daily for 5 years. The kid whose morning routine I'd handled every single day. I got to see him 4 days a month. The house? Community property, bought during the marriage. It needed to be sold and assets split, or one party could buy out the other. Sarah's lawyer argued she should keep it for stability. For Jake, keeping him in the family home, same school district, minimal disruption. The judge agreed. I could either agree to let her keep it and refinance under her name, or we'd force a sale and split proceeds. I couldn't afford to buy her out of her half of the equity. My lawyer advised me that forcing a sale would be expensive, drag out for months, and potentially make me look vindictive to the judge for future hearings. So I agreed to let her have the house. The house I'd been paying the mortgage on for 6 years. Child support was calculated based on the custody arrangement and income disparity. I made slightly more than Sarah, so I owed her $1,200.00 a month. Then came the alimony argument. We'd been married 7 years. In our state, that's right on the cusp of where spousal support gets serious. Sarah's lawyer argued she'd deferred career opportunities to be more available for childcare, so she'd suffered economically from the marriage. They wanted $1,500.00 a month for 5 years. I wanted to scream. She'd deferred career opportunities to fuck her boyfriend, but sure, I should pay for that. My lawyer fought it, got it reduced to $1,000.00 a month for 3 years. Still, adding it up, I was paying $2,200.00 a month in support, had to find a new place to live, and got to see my kid 4 days a month. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment across town. It's not terrible. It's clean. It's safe. It's in an okay neighborhood. But it's 600 square feet compared to the 2,000 square foot house I'd been living in. I sleep on a mattress on the floor in the bedroom, and when Jake stays over on my weekends, he sleeps on an air mattress in the living room because there's nowhere else to put him. Sarah's still in the house. Our house, with Jake. and with Marcus, who apparently moved in about 2 months after the divorce finalized. So, this motherfucker is living in my home, sleeping in what used to be my bed, playing stepdad to my kid. Jake calls him Marcus, still, but who knows how long that'll last. Maybe in a year or two it'll be Dad Marcus or some shit. The rage I feel is indescribable. Not even about the affair anymore, though that still burns. It's about the injustice of the outcome. She cheated. She lied. She destroyed our family for a fling with some divorced dad she met at school pickup. And she got rewarded for it with the house, the kid, and my money. Let me break down the 3 things I learned from this disaster, because maybe it'll help some other poor bastard avoid my fate. First, trust your gut. Every single red flag I rationalized away was real. The increase in texting, the schedule changes, the emotional distance, the gym obsession, and wardrobe upgrades. They were all signs. My instinct told me something was wrong, and I talked myself out of listening to it because I didn't want to believe my wife would do this. Trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Second, infidelity doesn't matter in no-fault divorce states. I thought having proof of her affair would matter. It didn't. The court didn't care that she'd been cheating for 6 months. The court didn't care that she'd been lying to my face every single day. All the court cared about was the division of assets and what was best for the kid. And best apparently meant giving primary custody to the cheating parent who happened to do afternoon pickups. The system isn't designed for justice. It's designed for efficiency. Third, the mother almost always wins in custody battles unless you can prove she's unfit. And cheating on your spouse doesn't legally make you unfit as a parent. I learned this the hard way. I was an equal parent in every practical sense, but because she'd positioned herself as the primary afternoon caregiver and had a more flexible schedule, she got primary custody. If you're a dad going through this, get ready for the system to be stacked against you. Document everything. Get a good lawyer. And prepare for the possibility that you'll still lose. So here I am. 3 months into this new life I didn't ask for and don't want. And I'm faced with a question I can't answer. Last weekend was one of my custody weekends. Jake stayed over Friday and Saturday night. On Saturday, we went to the park, not the park near my old house where we used to go, because I can't stomach driving through that neighborhood anymore. A different park, across town. Jake was on the swings, and he said something that made my blood run cold. Marcus is teaching me how to ride a bike without training wheels. I'd been planning to do that. I'd literally been waiting for the right weekend. And this guy, the man who helped destroy my family, got to do it instead. I wanted to say something. I wanted to tell Jake that Marcus wasn't his dad, that I was supposed to be the one teaching him to ride a bike. But I didn't, because what's the point? Jake's 5 years old. He doesn't understand what happened between his mom and me. All he knows is his parents don't live together anymore, and there's this new guy at his house who's nice to him. That's my life now. Every other weekend, I get to be a dad. The rest of the time, I'm in this apartment, paying $2,200.00 a month to support my ex-wife and child, while another man lives in my house and bonds with my kid. I work my ass off in medical device sales, and half my income disappears to the woman who betrayed me. Meanwhile, Sarah and Marcus seem happy. I saw them at Jake's school holiday concert last week, first time I'd seen them together in person since the divorce. They sat on the other side of the auditorium, but I could see them. She was leaning into him, laughing at something he whispered. They looked like a couple. They looked happy. And I'm here, alone, in an apartment I can barely afford, seeing my son 4 days a month, watching another man take over the life that should have been mine. People tell me it'll get better. That the anger will fade, that I'll move on, that I'll find happiness again. Maybe they're right. But right now, 3 months out, It doesn't feel like it'll ever get better. It feels like she won, like she got everything and I got nothing. She cheated, lied, and destroyed our family, and she was rewarded with the house, primary custody, and a new relationship. I stayed faithful, worked hard, and tried to be a good husband and father, and I got a one-bedroom apartment and every other weekend custody. The question that keeps me up at night is this: what could I have done differently? If I'd confronted her earlier about the red flags, would it have mattered? If I'd fought harder in court, spent more money on a more aggressive lawyer, would the outcome have changed? Or was I doomed from the start, just another guy who found out too late that the system doesn't give a shit about fairness? I don't have an answer. All I have is this apartment, this rage, and the knowledge that in 2 weeks, I'll get to see my son again for 48 hours before he goes back to a house I paid for, to live with a man who shouldn't be there. That's my story. That's what an accidental Bluetooth connection to a TV revealed. And if you're reading this or listening to it and any of it sounds familiar, if your partner's behavior is raising red flags, if things feel off, don't do what I did. Don't rationalize it away. Don't trust blindly. Because the cost of being wrong is higher than you can possibly imagine.
All right, guys, Alex here. Wow, that was a lot. Honestly, it's hard to know exactly how anyone would react in a situation like that until it actually happens to them. But I want to hear from you. If you were in his shoes, how would you have handled this? Let me know your game plan in the comments. And remember, if you have a story to share, the email is in the description. Subscribe for more, and stay safe.